Hello everybody, you're very welcome to today. Delighted to be joined by Angela McEvoy, Senior Planner with Laois County Council. And Angela is going to run through the draft Laois County Development Plan and how it relates to the business community. The consultation process is still open, I think, till the 23rd of March, so we still have an opportunity to input if we wish. So Angela, I'm going to hand it over to you and let you go through your presentation, and thanks for taking the time today.
Okay, thanks Bernie, thanks for having me here, and thanks to the Chamber for giving me the opportunity to speak to yourselves there this morning on it, or this afternoon rather now, sorry about that. So I'm just going to briefly go through a quick presentation that we have prepared. We've already done a webinar on job creation in the county, the economic priorities, so I'm just going to take you through that again. It's probably very relevant to yourselves and your own Chamber of Businesses. So the job creation part of it, I suppose, is reflected in a couple of chapters within the County Development Plan. And I should say from the outset, the County Development Plan is made up of 4 different volumes, really. The first volume is the written statement, and that has all the different chapters based around themes. So the 4 relevant ones to yourselves are economic development, retail, tourism, rural Laois. Indeed, they all are probably relevant to yourselves, but these are specifically, I suppose, more about industry and business and that kind of thing. The next volume then is the settlement strategy, which details the zoning maps for all of the towns and villages, right from Portlaoise as a key town down to the smaller villages, like the likes of Cullahill or Arles or any of those little villages. There are not, I suppose, zoning maps for Port Harlington and Great Cullen at this point in time, because both of those will be joint plans with Offaly for Port Harlington and Carlow for Great Cullen. So there isn't a zoning map for either of those towns, but there is one for Portlaoise and for Mallock. So that's just worth bearing in mind. And then the other 2 volumes are made up of appendices. Again, the retail strategy is included within the appendices. They're again relevant to yourselves. And then the last section is just, or the last volume is about the environmental studies that have to be done in conjunction with preparing a draft plan. So chapter 6 then is on economic development specifically. The aim there is to promote and develop Laois's economy and create a viable and favourable economic environment for businesses and enterprise to thrive both in urban and rural areas whilst delivering sustainable jobs, employment opportunity both within the county and beyond, and also I suppose within, as I said, urban and rural areas specifically. And we look at different areas, I suppose, like industrial and commercial zoning, manufacturing, identifying key strategic employment sites, and then remote working hubs as well, which has become, I suppose, a feature of the last couple of years, and specifically more so maybe in the last year with COVID. In relation to the policy context then, a lot of it is set within the national and regional plans. So items like, or documents like Project Ireland 2040, the National Planning Framework, the National Development Plan, and then the Regional Economic and Spatial Strategy. So these guide and inform where development happens generally, but also in an enterprise side of things as well. And then other kind of plans would be the Foodwise 2025, a vision for the Irish agri-food industry, our own local economic and community plan, the Midlands Regional Enterprise Action Plan, and there's the wide variety there. I suppose some of the newer ones to be brought out in most recent times are the Climate Action Plan in 2019, and then our own digital strategy, which was done last year for a 4-year period. So these all, I suppose, these all have to be inform the plan as well, and they're just some of the key stakeholders as well, such as yourselves, the IDA, Enterprise Ireland, and Midlands Ireland.ie as well. So they're some of the main areas and the main plans that inform policy. In terms of the local economic community plan, then 2016 to 2021, which is up this year, the economic strategy that we've set within the development plan that aligns very much with the key goals which are identified there: to market Laois, to foster inward investment, to diversify and strengthen the sustainable county economy, and to support innovation and entrepreneurship. In Laois, it's all about location, 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 and selling our position within the county and marketing and getting the name of the county out there. And specifically, I suppose, Portlaoise, so far as it has, it is located on the motorway network. So there's about 18,505 jobs in the county, and that gives us a job workforce ratio of 0.56. And I suppose that's brings about the economic benefits of being associated with our strategic location here. There's some stats there. I'm not going to go through them all specifically. I'm sure you're very familiar with them within the chamber, just in terms of where the profile of the different sectors are, and the main areas of development, such as professional services, commerce and trade, agriculture, forestry and fishing, public administration, and then I suppose where we maybe lack a little bit more and our numbers are below the state averages, such as manufacturing and transport communications. The key priorities for us that we've identified are in relation to continuing to develop J17 National Enterprise Park in Portlaoise, developing the Cube Low Carbon Centre of Excellence, and then again looking at, I suppose, developing enterprise and employment opportunities within the key town of Graiguecullen in association with Carlow, and the self-sustaining growth town of Port Harlington in association with Offaly County Council. And then outside of that, I suppose it's bringing more job opportunities into the other smaller settlements within the county as well. Looking at developing remote working practices, which have been done and are being, I suppose, proposed in some of the smaller areas, and working with the Laois Hub Collective in that regard. And then continuing, I suppose, to strengthen the attractiveness of Laois as a tourism destination and a national event centre within the country as well. In terms of the county development plan, the spatial distribution of zoned land is to ensure that we have enough land zoned for economic development, and this is done through zoning such as enterprise and employment, general business, industrial and warehousing, and then mixed use development, which you would see in a lot of town centre kind of scenarios within the towns and villages in the county. J17, obviously National Enterprise Park, that employment zone there. Some of the businesses that have already taken up there, no surprise to yourselves, or I'm sure you've supported them as well. In terms of National Trinker Depot, the National Enterprise Park, obviously Glanbia cheese making plant, the Greenfield Global, Aubren Supermax, and then Midway food court and hotel out there at Apple Green as well. So there's a variety of different uses there, but there is a lot of land bank there to be used within the next 6 years as well. In terms of manufacturing, then Laois has a limited share of the high value added, high technology manufacturing and service provision. So it is within our policy, I suppose, to try and promote that more in conjunction with the likes of IDA, Enterprise Ireland, and the local community and development company as well. So that's just to give some examples of some of the fine manufacturing activities that are already within the county and in Portlaoise as well. In terms of manufacturing, I suppose the opportunity there is all around clean technology as an umbrella term for industries concerned with resource, material or energy efficiency. So looking at developing out that whole area over the next plan period. There's some small clusters already within the county that operate, such as ENVA, LSM, and they're based within the county. In terms of climate action and jobs, then the Regional Enterprise Development Fund that we were successful in getting some funding under last year is looking at to develop an innovation and collaboration space to create communities of practice, and that will spearhead a lot of future low carbon initiatives on the island of Ireland. And indeed, I suppose developing a low carbon centre of excellence will act as a focal point for the development of new businesses and economic activity as well. So that whole concept, it's I suppose a new area that we're looking to kind of further strengthen within the county and the country. And as you know, Portlaoise is designated as a low carbon town to be developed over the next 6-year plan. Remote working, which I know you all support as well, in terms of, I suppose, trying to make those work even better and I suppose get the best out of what that offering is there at the moment. And again, market it and promote it within the county in order to beat the commute, which is again moving towards achieving that low carbon agenda as well. So there's already 6 of them within the county. Mountmellick, Portlaoise has a couple, Rathdowney, Mountrath and Port Harlington Enterprise Centre Innovation Hub. So the next chapter then is chapter 7 on retail. And again, that's main aim here is to ensure that the town and village centres of County Laois retain their vitality and their viability and that all future retail development is plan-led in line with the settlement strategy. And the retail hierarchy is given from the guidelines, the national guidelines. And again, it goes from Dublin as a metropolitan centre right down to the small various county towns and villages and the corner shops and small villages. And Portlaoise is in there at level 2, which is major town centre and county town centre. So that'll just show you, I suppose, the variety of where each of the towns sit within that retail hierarchy at national level. In terms of the location of retail development, well, it's very much based on the sequential test, which is first preference is retail and the primary retail core, the town centre and core. And I suppose a lot of this is around that whole town centre first principle. Secondly, then we'd look at the town centre remainder, then edge of centre locations, and then out of centre sites. And I suppose that's very much after all of the others have been looked at in a very definite sense. There is capacity there within each of the retail categories for convenience, comparison non-bulky and comparison bulky. And our retail strategy will give you the statistics there, the data that we've used to look at how that capacity has been formulated. And it's based on, I suppose, the census 2016 and population data, because that's the most available that we have at the moment to guide us in this front. There are obviously challenges with retail development, and I know it's when we see ourselves here in Portlaoise, our town centres are facing some real challenges in terms of depopulation out to suburbs and one-off housing and rural living, the lure of the shopping centre and trading online, which has been great over the last period, but I suppose it's looking at how to keep that sense of place and, you know, that sense of vitality and viability within town centres. The cost of refurbishing protected structures on Main Street, and that can be a put off to a lot of businesses. And then dereliction and vacancy in the centre, and how do you turn that around to make main streets more viable and more have that sense of vitality. I suppose the main example that we have and the policy objective that we want to promote over the next couple of years is that town centre first approach, which is very much founded in a vision for Portlaoise strategy for a better town centre, and there's policies and objectives there framed under that strategy. And this we have been rolling out now to the likes of Port Harlington and Mount Rath and places like that as well. Over the next 6-year period, you will see, I suppose, that type of approach developing in a lot of those towns and villages. The policies and objectives reflect working together for a better community ownership of our town centres, placemaking to achieve a sustainable and low carbon urban community, and how businesses and heritage are mutually beneficial. So they're the cornerstones, really, I suppose, of getting the best out of those type of strategies. In terms of Chapter 8 then, in relation to tourism, one of the key sectors that we want to enhance and I suppose further develop over the next plan period. The main aim is to support the development of the tourism sector as an economic driver for the county, identify and develop key destination towns, visitor attractions and activities for the prioritisation of investment, and to encourage an increase of tourism product development. So it's all very much about making our county, towns and villages more attractive to visitors, to increase their stay within the county and in our towns. Our policies are aligned to a strategy to develop an integrated tourism destination, which has been prepared by Laois Tourism over the last couple of years, and looking at enhancing the quality heritage within the county and developing outdoor adventure pursuits, looking at collaboration and looking at growing then the tourism product, such as accommodation and hospitality. And indeed, I suppose that's already started to kick off, and we are noticing applications coming in for glamping sites and, you know, bed and breakfast and things like that now. So very much that stay-at-home tourism is being, I suppose, further developed since COVID last year, and and it is one area that we can certainly work together on. In terms of the strategic priorities for tourism, particularly Blue Mountains, obviously, and the development of the mountain biking trail up there and all of the complementary uses that can go with that, the development of events and festivals. Indeed, this year was to be a dual, I suppose, large event and potentially could be for both the Electric Picnic and the National Ploughing Championship, should they go ahead. So they are, again, it's to capitalise on the location of the county in terms of, you know, being attractive to the wider audience. Local arts, crafts and food, something that we do very well at, and then walking and cycling trails in a possible greenway for the county. And indeed, some work has been done already in terms of Waterways Ireland and the work on the Grand Canal. And again, the towns and villages, and providing a range of attractions there, and working with the likes of the town and village renewal schemes to increase, I suppose, maybe visitor amenities at these attractions. Forest tourism, waterways development, heritage attractions such as developing out the product at the Rock of Dunamaze, and then development of the peatlands for ecotourism potential. So that's just a map there from Laois, www.laoistourism.ie, which gives you an idea of the top attractions and the different types of amenities that are available throughout the county. In terms of Chapter 9 then on rural Laois, the main aim here is to support the role of rural areas in maintaining a stable population base through the strong network of villages and small towns, and strengthen rural communities by supporting a resilient rural economy and the sustainable management of land and resources. And this chapter looks at a variety of different things. And again, I'm not going to go into all the policies and objectives. There are policies there that can be looked at. And I suppose this is where we'd like to get your feedback, you know, if there's anything on any of those chapters that you'd like to augment or improve and make more relevant maybe to what's happening within the county at the moment and going forward. But in terms of rural Laois, we're looking at agriculture, peatlands, sustainable food production, mining and aggregates, forestation, renewable energy and green infrastructure. So it's looking at policies to support these types of industries within the rural context. So the influencing factors are on rural Laois climate action, obviously, and the potential impacts on the agri-sector and the development of renewables, just transition, obviously with Bord na Móna, and looking at reimagined peatlands, the environmental consideration of land-based industry, and looking at that, how those have to be taken into account. Then sustainable land management, sustainable food production and support, and then the role of forestry in developing, I suppose, rural Laois. So that kind of concludes, Bernie, I suppose, the short presentation. I hope it wasn't too long, on just, I suppose, what we have in relation to business opportunities within the county. If you want to ask anything, or you want to maybe chat about anything, I'm free to do that. Yeah. The development plan itself has been on display since the beginning of January, and it will come off display on the 23rd of March, so that's only next week. Yeah. We have had 4 webinars over the last month or that, and they've been well attended, and you know, we've had lots of good feedback. We have a portal on our website, www.consultlaois.ie, so you can share that around with your members, and they're more than welcome to make submissions. I think we've about 30 submissions up there already, so we normally get a rash of them in the last kind of week as the timeline comes closer, but we certainly welcome any kind of submissions anybody has to make in any part of the plan at this stage, you know.
Yeah, that was great. Yeah, that was really good, Angela. Very informative, and I think it's really valuable that the business community know what's in the plan and what's in the pipeline. You know, particularly around the low carbon agenda. You know, I think it's a fantastic opportunity that Laois and Port Laois specifically has been selected as the first low carbon town in Ireland, and the spin-offs that's going to bring, you know, backed by a plan like this. So really, there's a lot of work gone into this, and I can see all of those policies that feed into it, you know, make it a huge task to able to produce a document in the end that people can consult. So really, it's all about collaboration, and I'm hoping that business owners looking at this webinar will take time out to review these documents before the consultation process closes next week.
It would be great. It would be great to get some feedback, all right. So it would just kind of in terms of, I suppose, you know, how we can make the plan better, you know, in terms of, because obviously we're not business people, but you know, at the same time, it would be good to get that, you know, insider, I suppose, kind of feel for, you know, what is kind of current, or what's working or what's not working at the moment, you know, and if there is policies then that we have to maybe need to reassess or relook at, that now is the time to do that, to set us up over the next 6-year period, you know.
Yeah, and I think you know, the regeneration of towns and villages is a crucial part, and you know, COVID has speeded up the opportunities that are there to revitalise, and of course the funding that Portlaoise received there last week, again, all adds up to a bright future, I think, for the county.
Yeah, I think it's given us a chance really to kind of reimagine, you know, where we or where we need to be, and you know how we kind of reset ourselves up or reset ourselves in business, and even as a local authority, you know, how we have to maybe think a little bit differently as well. And certainly the funding that has been granted to us from the department, you know, it's on very much using the foundation of the strategy for the Better Town Centre for Portlaoise. So I suppose it is very much about being plan-led, you know, and as you say, in collaboration with, you know, the various bodies and stakeholders around the table. And certainly, I suppose we've gotten a lot of feedback from Portlaoise Town team and the likes of yourselves, or you know, a lot of support as well, you know, when we were making our applications for those. And similarly for Portarlington, where we've made an application under the Rural Regeneration Development Scheme as well. So look, I suppose it is very much about working together to try and get the best out of it. But unless you have, I suppose, the policies and objectives there at plan level to support what you want to do, you know, it's kind of, it won't mean anything, you know.
Exactly. And there was one term that I know has been thrown around in the last week, and I've read it in the media, and I did hear someone asking you to describe the term placemaking. It's a pretty new term, and you described it really well in the last webinar last week. So if you wouldn't mind just maybe describing that again so people are clear what that actually means.
Yeah, like placemaking, are kind of, I suppose to me it means anyway, you know, where did you feel like, you know, you really, where you liked, you know, kind of, and why did you really like somewhere? And mostly it's about, you know, that sense of good use in the places around you. You know, the public realm is inviting, makes you want to stay longer within it. You know, the shop fronts are nice, you know, there's nice landscaping. So it's a kind of an all embracing kind of package of everything, you know, but it's very much about the public realm, the uses kind of, you know, that are within our places. And there's some places, you know, that you don't like, you know, and you won't go there too, but there's places that you very, very much will go to as well, you know. So it's trying to make that sense of place, and that's what a lot of the funding applications are use as their cornerstone to, and that's what the department are looking at, trying to encourage and promote, you know.
I know there are towns like Waterford City, for example, have put a huge amount into placemaking, and Kinsale and Clonakilty. And as you said, why do you go to those places? You go there because they're really nice, they're pleasant. You want to spend a weekend there or your holidays. So really, that's why can't Portlaoise be that place in the future? Yeah, absolutely. So look, it all looks good, and thanks again for taking time out. And I know you've probably presented this so many times now. You're probably reciting it in your sleep. But,
yes, no, indeed. Just
really
don't forget the date of the 23rd. I suppose that's the one thing I would say to you.
And I will. You know, I'll circulate this to the members, and I'll put in the date, and I'll put in the website for the consultation process for any feedback. And I'm sure all feedback is welcome, no matter how small or irrelevant it might seem. It could just trigger something else to be added in there.
It doesn't have to be endless pages, but equally, like, you know, I suppose if something just even probes a thought, you know, it's better than not getting involved, you know.
Yeah, there's no point in 6 months saying, oh, I should have, why aren't we doing X, Y, or Z? This is the time to get your say in, I suppose, really. And
now the process won't conclude out until the end of the year, so there possibly will be a third phase of consultation. This would have started last year, but the third phase of consultation is generally just on whatever amendments, and it's only on amendments. You know, it's not going to be the whole plan as such that you'll be able to make comment on. So now is the time to make comment on whatever aspect of the plan that you want to, you know, kind of get involved with, you know.
Well, there's a great foundation there for the future plan for Laois, really. So thanks again for taking the time out.
No problem. And, thanks for having me.
Hopefully you'll get some feedback after today's session is distributed.
That's great. Thanks, Bernie.
Thank you.